Hey guys, I just thought I would give you a quick update before we begin about why I'm coming to you via video this time opposed to my normal blog entries. I am super tight on time nowadays with uni, with work and sort of everything in between. And I thought with the amount I want to cover, I think a video is the easiest platform just so I'm not typing for days. So as many of my friends and family know, I was in New York last week, which was amazing. I was there for 5 days, and I managed to see 5 Broadway shows. So I thought I would just make a little video to cover that, opposed to having to type multiple reviews. So yeah, let's get started. I was away with my very close friend Emma. She actually runs a YouTube channel of herself. She runs a booktube, so if any of you guys are fans of books, I would 10 out of 10 recommend her channel. It is amazing. There's new content way more frequently than I update. I will leave a link down below if you are interested. But yeah, so yeah, me and Emma, we've been planning to go to New York for years. Never got around to it, so I thought, what the hell, let's go. So yeah, we arrived Monday, 7 hours flight there, pretty tired, but you know what, we were only there for 5 days, so we got into the airport, into the hotel, checked in, dropped our stuff, and then got right out and started to explore the city. So yeah, we were out and about, and I was like, we've got nothing on a Monday night. There's still some tickets to Phantom, so we booked. It was my 4th time seeing Phantom, so it was really nice on the first day, being tired from the flight, just to go into a show that I know, that I love. The soundtrack's amazing, the set's amazing, the story's amazing, so I won't spend too much time on it because I love it. So, and having seen it before, I wasn't shocked by anything. What I will say though is the performances in the production, I think, were the best that I've seen. The Christine and the Phantom were exceptional. If you ever get the chance to see Phantom, either in the West End here in the UK, across the pond on Broadway, or if it ever tours again, which I'm praying that it does, because my first experience of Phantom was a tour while it was in Edinburgh. So the Tuesday night was the reason we were there. Me and Emma are both huge Samantha Barks fans, so I thought, why not? Like we were last year, tickets were released, she was announced to be the lead in our first Broadway show, and we were both like, we need to go. So we bought tickets before we even booked our flights or hotel, just to make sure we could see her within the first couple of months of her being on the show. Can't go back. I've seen a different world, I can't go back. So yeah, Pretty Woman the musical. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts, but that's the film which the musical is based on. The musical didn't stray too much away from the film, so if you love the film, you'll love the musical. The story is almost sort of like for like, but with some amazing music written by Bryan Adams. And I think the music and the story went hand in hand for an excellent stage show. This was one of 3 film to Broadway adaptations I'd seen. All of them were amazing for different rights, so I don't want to put them against each other. And I'll tell you the next 2 as I go along. But Samantha Barks played the lead Vivian, Andy Carl played Edward, who was the male lead. The story was what I expected. It was exactly like the film, set to stage. They brought some of the most famous costumes and locations to stage, which was amazing to see. The film being set in Beverly Hills. But yeah, it is an unconventional love story. It's about a woman who she sells her body, and a man sort of paying for her services as an escort, sort of come with him to dates and public events, so he had company. And as the story develops, they both fall in love with each other, and in the end, they end up together. So it was sort of the unconventional tale of a man falling in love with a female, which was very refreshing to see. So next is the Wednesday. This was our double show day, so we didn't do much else. We got some breakfast, but we had tickets booked for both nights prior to arriving in New York. So the afternoon performance was a matinee of Dear Evan Hansen.
Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you.
Dear Evan Hansen is a show that I've been wanting to see for a very long time, and I didn't actually think I would see on this trip. Tickets are still super hard to get. I think it was about 2 weeks before we left. I was just browsing the net and happened to see there was a couple of cancellations on a website. So I was frantically messaging Emma. I was like, can we go? Can we please go? Can we please go? She's as madly in love with the soundtrack as I was, and she was like, hell yes. And that blew my mind. I didn't know much about the staging or the casting of the show. I know a little bit of the story based on the soundtrack. There was only 8 cast members, but which for a musical is pretty unheard of. There was 4 adults, 4 kids. The adults being parents of the main characters, and then the kids being the main characters, love interests, siblings, etc. So the story follows Evan Hansen, who is, I would say, he suffers from anxiety. He feels pretty out of place in his life and doesn't have any friends, and it's the first day of high school. And then the mirror story to that is Connor Murphy, who is exactly the same. He is anxious, doesn't have any friends, also his first day of school. As the story develops, Connor does unfortunately commit suicide, but the basis of the show is about, well, it starts with Evan Hansen having to write letters to himself, and this is a task he's been set by his doctor. So hence the name, Dear Evan Hansen. He writes a letter to himself about not feeling great, not feeling like he belongs, and he's printing this off at school, and Connor gets a hold of it. And then a couple of days later, Connor's parents are in school, Evan gets called along, and this letter is found on Connor's body, and it is assumed to be his suicide note. And Evan, being quite socially awkward and anxious, he didn't know how to say, that was my letter. So it ends up getting caught up in lies about being friends, and then eventually this evolves into him playing a pretty big part in the family's grieving process, and also helps him as a person. He grows. There's sort of numbers in the show, plot points in the show, which I don't want to ruin for you too much if you ever do plan on seeing it, in which he is a central figure nationally, I would say internationally, within the show, about his response to his friend's death, and about sort of self-acceptance, self-belonging in the world. So he's entangled in these sort of lies, which started as a white lie, which have 2 sides to it. He's grown as a person, which is great, but is sort of telling his family a lot of lies to help them through the grieving process. The cast that we've seen was the second cast, so it wasn't an official Broadway cast, and they were exceptional. The main girl played a girl called Zoe. She was only 18 years old, recently graduated from high school, and she was insane. Wow. The whole cast were so connected. I was a ball of mess by interval. I cried. It is such a powerful musical in terms of the emotional journey that you go on as an audience member, and I don't know how the cast do that 8 times a week. It's insane. Yeah. Into the evening, which was a bit of a more light-hearted show, we went to see Frozen, the musical.
A monster, were they right? Has the dark in me finally come to light?
Which many of you may be aware of, is a Broadway adaptation of the Disney film Frozen with Idina Menzel. So as you may imagine, the story is almost exactly the same. It mirrors exactly the film, but there is some gorgeous new songs. The one I've just played there is Monster, sung by Elsa's character, who in this production is played by Casey Levy, who is one of my favourite musical theatre performers. She performed in Ghost in the past, Hair, and the main reason for myself going to see that show was so I could see her perform, and she did not disappoint. The musical brings sort of the childlike qualities of the film and it matches them with these really underlying dark themes. So Monster as a song is about Elsa sort of questioning her existence in a way. She does, like, am I a monster? Like, should I be here? Would the world be a better place without me? Which I feel is a very, very adult theme for a kids show. There was also a very unusual naked dance number halfway through the show, in which the ensemble danced with leaves covering their areas, which in all honesty felt a bit out of place, but I think it added to that sort of Broadway glitz and glamour. The number was very old Broadway style in terms of its production values, so I totally understand that was geared at the adults of the audience, but in the show itself felt a little bit out of place. The cast as a whole done pretty well. The audience was fairly young. There was a lot of kids. There was a lot of ruckus and noise. If you're not used to being to a show with kids, could hinder your experience in the show. I didn't want to let it do that to me, because I wanted to hear the songs that I've heard on the cast album sung live. And then there's an amazing quick change during Let It Go, when Elsa changes from her princess attire into her new sort of ice queen.
Let it go, let it go.
The rest of the cast were amazing as well. All, as you expect on Broadway, the best of the best. The next show was our last night. Again, super last minute tickets. We're like, what do you want to do? We're like, we'll go and see if there's any cheap tickets at the half price on Times Square. We went to Times Square, we were just lingering, and this man was like, oh, I've got tickets to these shows. We're like, oh, we're not interested, we're just having a look. He was like, oh, I've got tickets to Mean Girls, and I've been wanting to see Mean Girls since it launched on Broadway last year, but last night, not too much money left. He was $100 ticket, and I was like, no. So we got chatting, sort of pretended like I didn't want to see the show, which was a lie, and he was like $80, and I was like, nope, and he was like $75, and I was like, really, still a bit too much for what I've got my last night. I don't know why I was expecting. Broadway's expensive, but then eventually it was like $70 a ticket, and I was like, done, deal, sealed, delivered, yeah, all the words, and I was like, yes. I love the soundtrack, I love the cast, I love the film, so I was super excited to be ending my week on that high.
Raise your right finger and solemnly swear.
It was quite an experience getting a ticket, so obviously we were buying off a third party vendor on the street, so there's always that part going through your mind going, am I being scammed? Went to the shop in which the tickets were held, got the tickets, got all the way to the theatre to be told we had been given tickets for the wrong night. And obviously mild panic run through. I was like, we're not here tomorrow night, can we change them? The theatre were like, you're not the original ticket holders, there's no way for us to give you a refund, blah 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 blah. But go back to the people you bought the tickets from. And I was like, you know what, cool, let's do that. We went back, was an honest mistake, the sheer panic on the guy's face when we said, you've given us the tickets for the wrong night. We got their tickets and went back to the theatre, got in, and we settled for the show. That was one of the shows where I think the first time I felt part of a brand new experience. There was a lot of people around us who had evidently been waiting a long time to see the show. We're super excited. Mean Girls was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was fun, it was camp, it was just lighthearted, it didn't take itself too seriously. The cast were amazing. The best parts of the film were pulled forwards. Unlike Pretty Women and Frozen, Mean Girls had been updated for more current times. So Mean Girls, the film came out I think in 2004, so they updated it to include social media and the use of mobiles, just so the story felt a bit more current, which I feel it was a nice change and a nice update for the show. I don't think it would have worked in its old ways. And it placed a lot more emphasis on sort of female empowerment. So even though, I don't know if you guys have seen Mean Girls, the film is about a girl moving from Africa and moving into a new school in America, and sort of it's a school with really defined stereotype cliques, and she's trying to find her way and ends up with the Plastics. The Plastics are sort of the top of the school. They're the pretty girls, superficial, bitchy, as you can imagine, if you've seen the film, you know, like Regina George is the lead group, everything's about her, and then it's Karen and Gretchen are her two sidekicks. But this film spoke a lot about sort of female empowerment and a lot of sort of things talking about like sort of how females are treated on the internet, how they should dress. There's a very underlying adult theme which I think elevated the show above the film and allowed it to work on a physical theatre. So yeah, that's that. I just wanted to give you a brief update about my trip. I will include some videos and photographs in this. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it and you'd like to see more, please let me know. As I said, I'm fairly limited on time nowadays, so I don't have the time to write full reviews of every film I see. I did intend to be like that, but in reality, I think this video way may be a bit easier. I see around 2 films a week, so even if I was to do a weekly update via video about the films, my thoughts, and anything else that you guys want to cover, film news, casting news, shows I've seen, if I am 100% open to reviewing films from the past. I had a recent message from someone on Facebook saying, why don't you review some of the classics, like old films that I may have never seen, pushed aside. So if you have a favourite film and you want to hear my thoughts, please let me know. I will put my Instagram and Facebook links down below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.